Hello everyone, and welcome to 30 Days of Art, episode 9. Today I will be showing you guys how to draw faces. As usual, I will have a real-time version of this video, which is over an hour long, available to my patrons at patreon.com/happydartist, so you can get a closer look at my technique. So I always start off drawing faces with planning out the top and bottom of the face first, and then drawing kind of like a smushed egg shape because I like to keep my faces rather round. And then the eyes I plan out to be about halfway between the top and bottom of the face. The nose is about halfway between the eyes and the bottom of the face. And the mouth is about halfway between the nose and the bottom of the face. So just kind of slice it in half. With my eyes, I like to keep them a little bit farther apart. The ears, you kind of want to line up the top and bottom of the ears with the guideline for the eyes and the nose. Now, with eyes and nose features, I like to keep my eyes really wide. My faces aren't perfectly proportionate, so this might not be like the best video if you're looking to draw a realistic face, but I like to keep my eyes pretty wide apart, and then my edges of the nose will begin around the inner corners of the eyes, and then my outer corners of the lips kind of line up with the center of the eyes. Oh, and one important thing to keep in mind when you're doing your initial outlining phase is to make sure you draw very lightly. I cannot stress this enough. If you draw too heavily, it'll be really hard to erase your guidelines later. And when you draw lightly, you can also not have the pressure of making a perfectly smooth or straight line. You can draw several lines, and when you look at the average of those lines, it can help you more freely place things where they're supposed to be without constantly having to go back and erase and redraw things. So yes, keep your marks very, very light. And then with forehead and hair, I like to create very alien-esque looking faces, so my foreheads are really huge. I know I sound like a broken record, but I don't draw perfectly realistic proportions. I'm just not really interested in doing that at this point, so if you're looking for a tutorial on drawing really realistic faces, this is probably not the right video for you. But so many of you guys have requested me to make a tutorial on how I draw faces, so this is my personal technique on my personal style. Yeah, I hope those of you out there who requested this will find this video useful. Right now I'm going into a little bit of shading. My shading technique too, it's really hard to explain because when I've been drawing for so many years, when I do it, I don't really think about the steps in a way that's digestible for a tutorial, but I'll try my best to explain kind of some overarching tips. Things I keep in mind when I'm shading. When I shade, I always use very light pressure. So drawing in general, and also painting, it's not about making the perfect mark right away. It's about building and sculpting gradually, layer by layer. And the same applies to shading the skin. I like to start off by kind of drawing out the darkest parts of my features, which are basically like the shadows in the eyelashes, the nostrils, and the mouth. And then from those darkest parts, I can then build my shading gradients so that they look, so that they create like an interesting value range. So what I do is after I establish the darkest parts, I go in with a lighter pencil, maybe like a 2H or an H pencil, and start laying down some of the basic shadows. And then here I'm using a white charcoal pencil to lay down some of the highlights. I also like to use a white gel pen and sometimes like a dark black pen, either a Micron or a Pilot Pocket pen, to establish the darks. So when I have the lightest lights and the darkest darks already on the paper, it's really easy for me to apply shadows and highlights on the face in a way that will kind of unify it and establish an interesting value range for the final piece. And right now here I'm adding some little interesting ornaments to my drawing. I always like to add a little something extra just to make the overall piece a little more eye-catching. So you'll never see me just draw like a face with no garnishes. yeah, this is kind of the things I do to make my drawings a little bit more unique and a little bit more personal to me. Yeah, sorry, I'm just I'm not super good at explaining these concepts. I think my process of creating is very erratic, and a lot of things I do out of just muscle memory from learning all these years, and it's challenging for me to explain them in a way that makes them seem easy, because it's not really easy. Like there's no magical way I can explain something to have all of this make sense or teach you guys immediately how to draw a face perfectly. A lot of this, most of it, comes from practice, and to help you guys out, I will list some videos in the description box of tutorials that you might find useful from other YouTube artists who are kind of primarily focused on teaching. And my channel is not primarily focused on tutorials. I think for me it's a lot easier to talk about art career or inspiration or kind of artist life related topics and have a discussion, but doing like a step-by-step tutorial on how to draw something as diverse and something as complicated as a face is not the easiest thing. Either way, I hope you guys will find this video useful. Feel free to even watch it without my commentary and just try to learn from watching me do it step by step. So oh yeah, back to what I was talking about with shading. Shading and blending is a very gradual process, and I really encourage you guys to approach it that way. Don't try to shade something perfectly immediately. You have to build it layer by layer, because as you add shading to one part of your drawing, you might notice that another part of your drawing now looks off balance, and you'll have to go and tweak it. And that's kind of how drawing is. You see, like after I added the shading in the hair, I kind of realized that maybe the face, I need to amplify the contrast a little bit more. Or after I add, like for example this part, I'm adding just a little bit of color with a pink colored pencil. After I do that, I realize I need to adjust my shadows, make them more prominent so that the pink won't flatten the face too much. A lot of these things you have to just kind of rely on instinct. You know, this particular drawing done this particular way might not apply directly to your drawing, which could be a lot different. So do not feel the need to adhere to this video or this tutorial so rigidly. I want you guys to go out there and do your own drawings and kind of pick up little tips that you learn from me, but do not feel obligated to follow this exactly word for word. There's so many different art teachers and tutorials out there that might be better than mine, and because I'm self-taught, my techniques might not actually be the most proper way to do things. And as you guys do your own artwork and your style evolves and improves over time, you will also adapt a technique and a flow that works for you. Well, I hope you guys found this video useful. I honestly would not have made it if it wasn't so highly requested, and I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll catch you in my next video. Bye!